give them another minute or two though.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wanna kinda, if I let it go off, then I have to go back in and open everything back up.
Well, I guess we'll start. We have a quorum, so we can start. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman
Needham, Councilman Bill, Brenda Runyon,
here.
Councilman Brown,
Here.
Councilman Galusha.
Here.
Okay. First thing I have is a resolution to pay a bill for the generator maintenance.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Whereas Pacific Tag completed our annual generator maintenance on October 16th and was unable to provide the town with his invoice in time for the October board meeting, be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the payment in the amount of $165. It was in my supervisor box in the foyer, so it didn't get paid with the regular bills, and I'd like to keep it in the same month that it occurred in. So if you guys are okay with that, I'll just call a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The second resolution I have is to authorize the supervisor to sign the union contract for the time period of January 1, 2025 to December 31, 2027. I am not sure that can be accomplished because I don't think you can vote on it, can you? No. So we'll have to wait on that. We have to wait on that for Doug to be available.
If Doug shows up, I'd like to, in order to discuss it, we have to go to executive session, because I just have a few questions I just want
Okay.
to talk over about it. But since we have other people here and we don't want to waste their time, we'll maybe do that last.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So then the next thing that we have here is to discuss the budget. What I prepared was worksheets that have a column for preliminary, so that as we go through it, we can fill that in.
So, since this is probably gonna take some time.
We
should
could we'll do EMS first.
Why don't we do
Yeah,
that?
we can do EMS first.
Just to be fair to them. So
Yeah,
they-
that's
They don't
fine.
have to sit here and listen to us ramble,
No,
okay?
okay. So in the packet, there is information.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. And they did give us that proposal book as well. I don't know if I spoke to both you and John, but I know I did speak to John about how much we had put in our tentative budget. Were you aware of the amount that we did have?
I thought you, me, and Corey discussed it in our meeting, but, I believe it was somewhere around 70,000
Right.
without having anything in front of me.
No, you're
Yeah,
you're right.
Yep.
So one of the requests on the other page was 105,000. And when I looked at this sheet here, which shows, it started out at 50,000 back in 2013. And they did a spreadsheet here with a 3% increase for each year. And by now, for 2025, it would be 73,426. And they've only had one increase, that was last year, for 5,000. So in the tentative, I did put this full amount right here, the 73,426. And I thought that that was fair.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I guess this is part question and part suggestion, and I'm asking you for feedback to tell me why this wouldn't be appropriate. It seems, reading through your proposal, that Warrensburg pays $400,000 a year.
Yes.
I'm not sure how you arrived at that, and I guess I don't need to know. That's between you and Warrensburg. But I guess why, it seems like it would be appropriate to apportion the expenses, your operating expenses, based on kind of a relative or average call volume. And I'm wondering how close we come to that with what's being proposed here.
So Warrensburg they have a tax district so they have a line item and people pay EMS tax, to the tune of, without it in front of me, like 353,000 is what the tax base is in the town of Warrensburg. They gave this year in their budget an increase of $50,000 to get up to that $400,000 line item. The majority of our calls do take place in the town of Warrensburg. The town of Thurman, our second highest call volume, and then the town of Stony Creek, our third highest call volume. But with the proportions of calls, it can be any given day, we can do 6 calls in the town of Thurman and 1 call in the town of Warrensburg. We never know which way the emergencies are gonna fall. And so the budget line items come down to the cost of readiness, having a 24/7 ambulance available to respond should a resident have a medical emergency in any of those 3 towns. We hold what's called the certificate of need for the town of Warrensburg and town of Thurman. So that's our district, we respond to those towns. We provide mutual aid to the town of Stony Creek because their EMS service is dwindling out, without lack of a better word. So they contract with us to provide mutual aid service. But when it comes down to it, we never know which way the calls are gonna fall in which town. I think that's kind of what you're asking, I might
Well,
be misunderstanding.
I think I'm asking more, and not so much on a daily call volume, but on an annual call volume, because we're looking at an annual budget.
Yeah,
So I guess if if Thurman accounts for 25% or 20% of your annual call volume, if that kind of is what it averages out to over a period of a few years,
yeah.
I guess I would think that that would be what we would be expected to pay. And I'm just wondering if these numbers come anywhere near that kind of an approach.
So that's not the approach that we went at it with per se for the call volume, because in an annual basis, it depends on how many times a resident calls 911. but it is structured as Warrensburg has the higher tax bracket because we do the majority of the calls in that town. Then it goes to Thurman, then it goes to Stony Creek. We asked every town for an increase this year because honestly, the expenses of everything with inflation have gone way out of control. We used to be able to buy the brand new ambulance that we bought last year. 3 years ago, we could have bought that for $80,000. Last year, we paid $150,000 for it, and we're seeing 10% increases every year. So everything's going up.
Mhm.
So every time the ambulance rolls, the fuel bill is going up, the staffing costs are going up, the insurance rates are going up. So it again goes back to that cost of readiness, but Warrensburg does carry the bulk of that
Mhm.
expenses. But again, there's an ambulance ready to respond to Thurman day or night, just like there is to the town of Warrensburg. And we never know
Okay.
which way the call volume is going to fall.
Mhm. So, I'm not sure how we handle this. I mean, are we negotiating? Or is this, you're telling us this is what we need to pay in order to be covered by?
So this
No,
isn't us saying, no, we're not going to respond to your town, but this is just us looking at a contract that's now 11 years old, and we've seen one $5,000 increase in 11 years, and the cost of everything has gone up over the last 11 years.
Right.
And so we've met with Supervisor Runyon multiple times over the last year, discussed everything from a tax district to what can we do to bring our subsidy up for the town of Thurman.
I know that in 2012, when we had our EMS and it was fully staffed, we had paid staff that year, it was 120,000 back then.
Mhm.
So, to me, 73,000 is fair. And I had talked about the call volume too, and I asked for the numbers for the calls and everything. But you're right, it doesn't matter on the calls, it matters on people being available, paramedics being available, and the readiness, and all your fixed costs, which are also going up.
Right.
So. And you're right, you haven't had a raise except for one time, you've had one increase of $5,000 in 12 years.
And we have, right now, staffing wise, we subsidize with volunteers, but we have 24/7 paid staffing. So that's, right now we have 2 ambulances that run throughout the day. We have one 24-hour, 7-day-a-week ALS crew, which is a paramedic, at least a paramedic and an EMT. Multiple times a week it's 2 paramedics, just because we are one of the agencies in the county that look out, we have more paramedics than we know what to do with, which is a great thing
It is
to
good,
have.
yeah.
And then we run a 7-day-a-week, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. second crew, because we have such a high call volume between the 3 towns that one ambulance doesn't suffice to cover 3 townships. And we don't want someone on Athol Road waiting for North Warren to come be 32 minutes from their station, or Johnsburg to come 20 minutes from their station when they're having a medical emergency.
Mhm.
We answer 100% of our first calls, 96% of our second calls, and 88% of our third calls. So there's days when all 3 of our ambulances are running at all times. 2 years ago, we took our billing practices from a third-party revenue recovery company and brought it in-house. We employ a local woman who is a revenue recovery specialist. She used to work for our third party. She works in our office 5 days a week. So when people have questions on their ambulance bills, they contact our office, come to our station. We're able to make it more of a personable thing. So if someone on Frost Road doesn't have insurance, they're gonna have an ambulance bill that's $3,000 because they had a medical emergency. We're able to look at that and be like, no, just because you don't have insurance doesn't mean you're stuck with a $3,000 ambulance bill. Let's make this something that's practical for you and your family, and we're able to bring that down. And that well, it didn't change our fixed costs when it comes to revenue recovery. It brought our revenue, so it's coming in much quicker, because when someone that's working for you is doing your billing and recovering your funds for you, they're doing it much quicker than a third-party company that they're getting 10% of the bill when it comes in. They have bigger fish to fry than people in the town of Thurman. So that has really worked out for us, and on top of that, she's also an EMT, so it's enabled us to answer those third calls when our other 2 ambulances are out of town, which is subsidized with myself, John Arnold, who lives in the town of Thurman, and our president, Corey Olet. All 3 of us live between the town of Thurman and the town of Warrensburg. We all ride on the ambulance 48 hours a week, but on top of that, we are pretty much available 24/7 to make sure that people in the community have their ambulance needs. So we don't drop a lot of calls. Our residents aren't seeing people who are not from their community coming to them, which is great, because a lot of townships are struggling to find staff. They're struggling to make payroll, and they're struggling to even find certified providers to roll their ambulances. And we've unfortunately come to a world where paramedics and EMTs can work anywhere they want. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Tomorrow a hiring ad can come out in the town of Queensbury, and that sounds enticing, so a paramedic from Chestertown leaves and goes to Queensbury. And so we've been very fortunate. Our staff is very local, they're very loyal. They're not bouncing around. We're able to provide insurance benefits to our full-time staff, PTO to our part-time staff, and we've been able to keep our staff very happy. But again, this dog-eat-dog world, we had to bring our wages up last year to meet livable wages for our staff, which then becomes a higher cost to us, so we don't lose those people that are answering the calls.
And I think your paperwork even showed the salaries for the individual people,
Yes.
what rates they make.
Yep.
And it's the same for MEOs, it's the same for a lot of type of jobs like that. You don't want them to chase the money,
Right.
so
So are we offering what we budgeted?
I would like to, the 73,427.
Are you receptive to that?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want to put constraints on the residents of the town, and we understand you guys have a job to do with your fiscal responsibility. We appreciate you guys taking a time to look through the proposals, and to come to that $73,000 number is very much appreciated, and it makes a difference in our operations. And
I feel it's very fair.
yes, I agree. And we're very happy to serve the town of Thurman, and I'm glad you brought up is this us saying we're not going to respond to you, because that's never going to be the case. We could have walked out of here tonight, and if the unfortunate was all you could do was the 55,000, then we would have had to figure out how we were going to do that. But the residents of Thurman are always going to have an ambulance, and it's going to be the people from this community that want to answer the call and want to make sure they're taken care of. So
Thank
you
you.
don't have to worry about, as
Mhm.
long as my tenure with Warrensburg EMS is, that we are ever going to say we're not answering that call.
And I really
So,
like your change in the billing, you did do that, and I've heard from people that it's much kinder. It doesn't have an interest rate, it doesn't have any threat behind it,
Right.
it's
We-
much kinder than it
We
used
don't
to
want
be.
to, you never want someone to feel like they can't call 911. And, I've worked in other communities where people will wait to the very last minute to call 911 because, oh, that bill, I can't afford it. That's
Exactly.
my difference in my groceries. And you don't
Mhm.
want someone to wait. It's a matter of life or death. And
Mhm.
I would rather get someone to the hospital, and if we only make $50 on that transport that costs us $1,800, then so be it. $50 saves someone's life, and at the end of the
Mhm.
day, life over money is more important.
And this
So,
sort of helps to cushion that little
Yes.
shortfall if you have it.
yes, yep,
Yeah, I like that. I think it's
Appreciate it.
fair.
yes, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your time, and thank you for
Mhm.
your commitment. And
So I'll have to
keeping us-
I'll rewrite up a contract then and have this dollar amount in there. And, I'll get that over, I guess, to, Corey would it be?
Yep.
Okay.
And going along with that, something that we want to try to do going into the new year with all 3 of the towns is One of our representatives is just gonna come to the town meeting. We're gonna try to send the supervisor a monthly call report of calls that we've answered in your town.
Good.
Not to the address of the residents that they are, but just statistics, so you
Numbers.
guys know that we're coming in
Mhm.
and just being more transparent as an organization that you guys contract with in the best way that we can, so that
That helps.
That's
you guys know that we're here and we're
Mhm.
happy at any time to answer any questions. And once the new facility is constructed, we would definitely like to welcome you guys all there so you can
Great.
take a look through it. And
Mhm.
Are you guys doing fundraisers for the new facility? and stuff?
yes, so we're financing for the construction project, but we're gonna launch a capital campaign with a bunch of the large foundation fundraisers that helped build the Warrensburg Health Center and help offset that cost so that it's not a burden to the taxpayers that are giving us money and from our operational budget. So it is gonna be covered by some foundations and a capital campaign, and more
Good.
information will be forthcoming on that.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Yep.
Ready?
Have a good night, guys.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
you, everybody.
Yep, have a good night. Okay, how do you wanna approach this? Do you wanna just go top to bottom? Do you wanna do revenue first? Do you, how do you wanna do it?
So I just, first I want to confirm that what you handed out tonight, this document, is identical to this?
Yeah, the tentative is identical to that one there that was signed by Cynthia. Yeah.
Okay, so
So those
we just
numbers
have
are
a couple
the
of extra
tentative.
columns to,
Yeah, one's preliminary, and I figured we'd write in as we go along if we wanna change anything.
Okay.
This is just a worksheet, this paper that you have in front of you.
so I guess before we get into the nitty gritty details, I guess I just kind of want to get an idea of, like, generally where are we going with this? What's driving the cost? Because from the summary table in here, it appears that the amount of money we're raising in taxes this year is up 25% over last year.
Yeah.
So what goes into that number? How is it that we're, so high? And, because it's gonna have a significant impact on our tax
Right.
rate.
It will.
So,
The largest driving force is the 300,000 that is in the bond category on page 5.
so that's the interfund transfers.
Well, that's what column I put it in because I don't have a capital fund or any other place for it, but what that represents is the bond for the highway garage.
Okay.
Now, I've
So-
been talking, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
So I've been talking to 2 locations for financing. This is based on a 30-year bond,
Mhm.
okay? Our bank will do 15. They're gonna see if they can stretch it to 20. I did get information from the person who we finance our trucks through. He sent me an email asking if we were interested in any more financing of vehicles, and I told him no, that right now we're working on a highway garage to house all the vehicles we've already purchased. And he wrote back and said he thought he could help me. Well, they have something that's called a government municipal leasing arrangement, and they handle that. NCL that we use for our trucks handles larger projects like this.
Really?
Yeah, and it would be, it's a lower interest rate, it doesn't require permissive referendum, but I told them we've already done all of that. And they're willing to do it for 20 years, which would raise this amount to 429,000 at 6% interest. Now, he did offer the ability to have that refinanced every 5 years, so that if the rates dropped, we could renegotiate and get a lower rate.
So, we passed a resolution a while ago to bond up to 4.5 million.
Yeah,
And I think I raised this question at the time, I don't remember the answer to it, but the engineer's estimate in today's dollars, was 4.8 million and change. I don't remember the exact number. By the time we complete construction, I mean, even if we did it in 2025, which is probably a long shot, but even if we do the bonding in 2026, he was estimating that the cost was gonna be 5.2 million.
Well, what he's hoping to do is if we can get this financing now, we'll be locked in. He'll put it all out to bid and we'll be locked in for the amount, no matter when they build. If they start in the spring or the summer, once those bids go out and get accepted for a dollar amount, they'll be locked in. And he also, I talked to him and I said, can you guarantee me we can build this for 4.5 million? And he said yes, because a lot of the rest of the, when you said 4.8, are items that are covered by what our highway department is doing. And also, if we were to go with the leasing, we would eliminate some of those fees, like the bonding fee, we wouldn't need a bond. There would be things in there, and they have over 500,000 in a contingency column. And there were a couple other fees that, we wouldn't be having.
I thought the 4.8 million, the engineer's estimate, reflected just our actual cost, not
No.
what the town highway crew was doing.
No, it reflected the total. It reflected the total,
Okay.
including, what was at the bottom? Including the engineer cost, which was 160,000, which is pretty much all paid. So once we hit that 161 for the engineer, we're done. We don't have
Well,
to.
we've got $100,000 in here this year. for
That's too
engineering.
high though. We don't need to have that. I ran that just before the meeting.
Okay,
We've already paid $99,201 to the engineer. There's only 62,000 left on the garage.
okay.
So I could lower that 100.
We can, but we're gonna need engineering for other things like landfill closure or the, what, maybe
In the
not
future?
in the future. but
Yeah, in the
maybe not this
future.
year, but there probably are gonna be other things that we may need the engineering.
Yeah, I think we
for,
could
so.
safely change it though to 75,000.
Okay,
I think we could, because this is 62, and then we have the little bit of the well. Now, we did have a survey done, but that's not an annual event, that was like 3,800 we paid them. Yeah, 3866, that was a survey, we won't need to pay that again. And this annual landfill report of 1,750, well, if it's annual, we'll have that. But the other expenses we have to the engineer is the well sampling, 150, 337.
Up to an end.
Yeah,
That
because
should be
our
coming
time
to an
should be
end.
up for that.
That is coming up on 30 years, I'm pretty sure.
so what are the other big drivers in the increase?
The other, well, I think the other big driver is the union contract.
What about the payments for trucks and other things? How much is that total this year?
That, for the 2 trucks that we're financing, will be 158,732. But as far as the budget goes, that's replacing the garbage truck and the loader that we're paying off this year. We just paid off the garbage truck, and this month we'll be paying off the loader. So,
But we've got 4 trucks on payments, right?
no,
No.
Oh.
we'll, as of November, we will be completely debt-free, except for these 2, which will start in February. We bought them last year, but he delayed the payments until 2025.
And the payment is 150,000,
158,732.
and that's the total payment for the 2, or the?
Yeah,
Okay, and that's the total annual payment for the 2. Okay.
yeah. So that's not really
And-
driving it, because
And
it's,
where is that in the budget?
that would be in the highway part.
Which line item?
He was spending almost that much for maintenance
Yeah, I know.
every year.
It would be on page 7,
Okay.
233,732 is the number. So it's the 158,732, and then he wanted to buy a new 1-ton, so I said, what about like 75,000 for a 1-ton? And that's on line DA 5130.2, like in the middle of the page. 233, 732. Yeah, you're right on it.
Okay, machinery, equipment,
Yeah,
233,732.
that covers the 2 trucks and a $75,000 1-ton.
Now, the 1 ton is something we haven't talked about before, or have we?
No, we haven't done anything. He just would like to purchase one, and there's been no conversation about it. He doesn't have one in mind yet. He just would like to replace the old 1 ton that he has.
Okay. So. I mean, the number that I have, so we're talking about raising taxes like $291,243 just to cover general fund and highway. And then I think we have, what, an extra $2,000 this year for the fire?
Yeah,
So then, 293, 243 is what we're raising in taxes. Now, I'm really kind of nervous about this whole thing about leasing and this other thing because we don't have any detailed information on it. And the fact that we can only do a 30-year or a 20-year bond, I mean, that's,
the serious problem that we have with the financing is we've defaulted on a bond in the past, in 2018. And that's a question on every form.
and that's driving our interest rate, or is it also driving the term of the loan? that
It's
we're
driving the
eligible for?
term,
The term.
yeah. Our interest rate would be with the lease 6%. So I don't think it's driving that.
No.
But that's with the lease. I think if I was to go to a bank, like our bank, if they were gonna see about doing it 20 years. But because we defaulted on a bond with a bank, I think our interest rate would be higher. Because the major difference with the lease is once you are in the contract, it's not like you'll have a 1-year ban and then you have to renegotiate to do another bond. They would know that it is in the budget as an expense and covered, because they wanted me to explain what happened, why did it default, how would it be different now? I mean, there were a lot of questions. I've been back and forth for weeks trying to tell them, you know, how it works, because they were looking at, okay, one of the other questions was, in the past 3 years, have you had a year where your revenue did not meet or exceed your expenses? And I had to say yes, because the 1 year with the fund balance used, the revenue was less than the expenses. So I have to explain, you know, why did that occur? And they're worried that our budgets show that we wouldn't have enough money to make the payments. So I explained to them how the budget works, how it's done annually. We determine our expenditures, we plug in our revenues, whatever's left over, we raise in taxes. Even if people don't pay their taxes, the county makes us whole, so we will always have what our budget says. So I'm hoping that it works out, but it's not gonna be easy.
So, by my calculations, if you finance 4.5 million for 20 years at 6%, the monthly payment, if it was done monthly, which we wouldn't be doing monthly payments, we'd be doing an annual
Annual
payment.
payment,
But the monthly payment's 32,239, so it comes out to, if you multiply by 12, like 389,000. But it's going to be more than that if you're only doing one annual payment, because you're not paying it off monthly. So
it'll be $429
$429.
with interest.
So
So that's $2.44 a thousand.
yep.
That's what the highway garage will cost.
So, I don't have last year's tax rate, well, I guess I do.
Oh, I think I do.
It's
7.24 something,
7.24.
I believe so.
I have it written down.
That's almost a 34% increase in the tax rate, and that's gonna be for 20 years, not counting other increases we have.
Or the rate going down.
What?
It doesn't factor in, we have to consider our ability to refinance if the rate goes down,
Right,
because it,
but there's no guarantee of
no,
that.
there isn't any guarantee.
I mean, somebody said to me, and I didn't check this to see, if we just go through with the tentative budget the way it is, and that's not even counting doing a 20-year bond instead of 30, that we would have the highest tax rate in Warren County.
We also have one of the lowest assessed values.
Mhm.
If we had a higher assessed value, we'd have a lower rate.
Mhm.
Right, I get that, but we have to live with what we have on assessed value, we don't, I mean, there's nothing we can do about that in the immediate future.
We could do something next year,
Yeah.
Well, okay, but,
but the rate would be lower, but I think the tax raised would be the same. It'd have to be.
yes, you're still raising the same amount of money in taxes.
You'd just be
That's-
doing it more
It's just
fairly.
changing the rate.
I know, but like, let's say you look at a rate like maybe Chester's rate is like $2 and something. It looks real low compared to ours, but you also look at their assessed value and the person's home, they're probably paying the same taxes.
Yeah.
It's just being a smaller number times a higher one, and ours is a higher rate times a lower number.
Mhm.
Rates aside, the amount of money that we're proposing to raise in taxes is 25% more than what we raised in taxes last year. And that's still, that doesn't even reflect the fact that we're projecting more sales tax revenue,
Right?
and we're putting $50,000 fund balance in.
Well, that's
So-
for the C&D, but yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
So we're raising a lot more money in taxes than that we were before. Over the past 3 years, we're talking about increasing the amount of taxes that we are raising, the tax dollars, not the tax rate, 93%.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on board with the stuff we are doing as far as, I mean, we needed trucks, we need equipment, we need a highway garage. I'm supportive of all of that stuff. I don't disagree with any of it. And I realize that we're stuck digging ourselves out of a hole from past administrations artificially suppressing the tax rate
Mhm.
because they were focused on cutting taxes.
Mhm.
So our fleet got neglected, our highway garage got neglected, our facilities are all neglected. We're trying to dig out of that hole. It's just trying to do everything all at once. It's a big pill to swallow for everybody that's
Mm-hmm.
gotta get their tax bills this January.
Mm-hmm.
But
So,
I agree with Deb, if they'd have kept our equalization rate up to where it belonged, it wouldn't be so bad.
well,
I'm
that's actually not
Yeah,
true, Ed.
Yeah.
That only changes the rate.
That's right. And if
That
it-
doesn't.
But it wouldn't look that bad on paper, then, you know what I mean, but
Well,
it's not
we,
right.
the board determines how many dollars we raise in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
They
Exactly.
only decide, or
Yeah.
they only affect
Mhm.
what the rate is that we raise it at.
Yeah,
And the fairness.
that's right.
Well, the fairness, yes,
Yeah,
but
that's
that's a
a lot
whole
of-
nother issue.
You know,
Mhm.
That's
they have a
independent
lot
of
to do
this.
with it, people.
It-
A concern, you know, it's
it-
just a concern.
But that doesn't have anything to do with how much money we're determining. The
No, but
board
it
is
determines a
responsible.
person's payment.
Mhm.
It does. I'm not disputing that, but the board is deciding how much money we're gonna raise in revenue
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
through taxes.
Right.
And we're increasing the amount of money we're raising in taxes by 93% over the past 3 years. If we adopt this tentative budget without any changes. And, I mean, we're talking, we virtually have doubled people's town tax if we do this. Almost doubled our town tax in 3 years.
Unfortunately, we're getting stuck with what should have been over.
I agree with you.
Right,
But
well,
if-
that's
I
gotta
agree
be
with
put
you.
out there, and I've mentioned that to a lot of people, and a lot of people understand that, and a lot of them don't. You
Yep.
know, this should have been gradual every year.
You
Yeah.
go, if you look at that past 3 years, it's $502,000 of fund balance that had been used to keep that rate down where it
That's a lot
was.
of money.
But
That's
those
a
are
lot
still
of money.
tax dollars, Deb. We're, those, yes, fund balance isn't free money, it's still tax dollars that were used.
But it kept the rate down artificially.
And.
Yes, but even if you don't talk about rates, you
Yeah.
talk about just the amount of money we're raising in tax dollars. Set the rate aside and just look at the amount of money
I
we're
agree
raising
with
in
you,
taxes.
but all I'm saying is we should have, not we, the whole system should have been bringing this up to par as they went along, instead of letting things get as bad as they are. Now it's in our lap, and we have to do something about it.
And we just have a lot of other
Yeah.
things that are driving this too. I mean, it's not just that highway garage. When you look at our retirement, this year we're paying 70,000. Next year, we're paying 92,900, 93,000. That's going up.
And what drives that, just so people understand?
That's driven by the rate. If you look right here where it says a rate, last year the rates were much lower compared, per tier. So however many people you have in tier 4, you're gonna be paying 19.3% of their wages. And that drives up the bill that we have to pay. So people put in a little bit each time if they're paying into their retirement. If you have over 10 years in year 4, you don't pay anything. And then tier 1, 2, 3, you're not paying anything. But you have a lot of people in tier 6, and they do contribute 3% of their pay, or maybe a little more depending on their salary. But then at the end of the year, the town pays a percentage into the comptroller's office as well. So where our bill was like 70,000, well, you'll be able to see it on this budget here, it is now 92,997, and that's the discounted one if we pay in December, which we usually do. So it'll be 93,666 if we didn't and we waited till February 2026. So that's only gonna save us not that much money really. So if you wanted to do something with this budget, we're only gonna save $669 paying it early. If you wanted to push this payment to 2026, we could take 93,000 right off this.
It goes into next year though.
Yeah, but if you start doing, if you're only saving $669 and almost $100,000 comes off this budget, the savings might be worth paying the extra. It's not a big difference. $669, and we take 93,000 off of the bill, off of this.
2026.
I mean, it's an option. It's something to think about. We have done this before in the past. It'd be different if we were saving a couple thousand, but we're not. We'd only save 669, and we'd have no payment in 2025.
Okay.
It's just,
If you guys are ready, I'm ready to go through line by line.
yeah,
If
whatever
wanna
you wanna do.
Do that, it's up to you guys.
All right, we're gonna leave the real property tax off
Yeah,
because,
I agree with you. You got some good points, and that should be brought up.
so, oh, and I also brought my, financials so I can tell you what has come in so far on here. Where we're at. Okay. So other payments in lieu of taxes, that's our first source of revenue, that's on this sheet. We put 1,000 in, last year we got $4,777. It all depends on the pilot of who's logging and paying in. So I don't wanna estimate higher than 1,000 because what if we get nothing? So I don't know how you feel about it, but 1,000 is usually what gets put in there.
Okay.
So we can leave that?
Yep.
Property interest, tax interest and penalties, that's the money we receive when people pay their taxes late to Jamie, if you're beyond that January 31st date or whatever. So we brought in 3,471, so I think 3,000 is a safe number to put there. Okay, occupancy tax, so far, we've taken in 7,664, which was money they gave us from last year. Our 50,000 will not come in until probably next week, but we are going to get the 50,000. This number doesn't really matter because on the expenditure line, it's an in and out.
Yes.
So we can leave it 30, 50, whatever, it doesn't matter.
It's not money you can use elsewhere in the budget, so it
No,
doesn't
and
matter.
whatever it is, it's in and out, so,
Right.
you know, so that, we can put it at 30,000, it doesn't really make a difference. But that way, if they don't give us the extra 20, we're okay. Sales tax, so far we've brought in 291. And we are expecting about 178 to come in. So, well, no, we're gonna be over 500. We're gonna be over 500. Oh, no, highway has some, that's why. 291, 780, we're gonna get another 78. And we gave highway 100,000. So, 569, that's what I estimate we're going to get in this year, right now. It will be coming in probably first week in November is when we're gonna get the final payment. In the past, we've received about 175, and I think we're up, so I'm estimating 178 will be our payment. So for, as far as our budget, which we budgeted 525 for tenant, but 302 for 2024, so we'll be coming in at 169,000 higher than we thought.
Yeah.
Now, that's why I increased this to 425 on the general fund and 100,000 on the highway. 525, because we have consistently for 3 years received that amount. And when I do the AUD, which is now called the AFR, they have a little pop-up that says, why are you underestimating your sales tax? So I'm bringing it as close to what I trust to come in. The governor hasn't signed yet for sales tax on short-term rentals, but if that occurs, it probably won't occur till after the election, and that might really significantly increase.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So are you
Talk about it.
okay with the 425 on the general?
Yes.
Okay. Next are the town clerk fees. So far, we have 487.50. 500 is a safe number because we've got a few more months to go.
Yep, good with that.
Refuge and garbage charges, we have so far, this is for the end of September, 15,558. I put 20,000. The fact that we'll be using the scale in the next year, I mean, I'm sure 20,000 would be reasonable. Probably be more. Interest and earnings, I have 20,000. You don't know what's gonna happen with the rates. If the rates go down, we may lose a little bit. Right now, we're at 23,091. Figure about probably 15,000 more if we're getting 5,000 a month. But some of that's highway, so,
And we're gonna spend some of that on the highway garage, so we won't have as much money drawing interest.
right, well, not if we have the bond, not if we have the lease, we won't be spending any of it.
But we have money in a fund for the highway garage that I
Yeah.
thought we were gonna apply towards the highway garage.
Well, we could, we don't, actually, the highway garage is a general fund expense. We shouldn't, it shouldn't be called the highway garage New York class. It shouldn't be called that because it's really a general fund expense. So, but it is highway money, so it has to, it can be used, but it shouldn't really be called highway garage. When I created it, I didn't realize the highway garage was only general fund.
Well, yeah, but just calling it highway garage doesn't make it a highway fund.
No, it
So-
doesn't.
Yeah, you're fine there.
Okay. So the interest and earnings, you think we'll leave at 20 then, just to be safe?
Sure.
Because I don't know what it would be. The rental of real property, we have 375 so far, and that's what I have in the budget.
Good.
Dog licenses, we have 127.50. I put in 300. That's a small number, and it's probably safe. I don't know if we'll get 170 more people, $170 more people by the end of the year, but 300's a round number to put there, it's small. Fines and forfeit bail, I put 500. We have 1,177 right now, but some of that was from the prior year that came in after.
But that money's, that's an in and out also, right?
Yep, it goes to the comptroller. We keep a little of it, that's why there's only the 500. Depends on what they're charged with and what the fees are. I'd rather not have a high number and count on any of that. Sales of surplus scrap, I have 1,500. So far, we've earned 1,344.
I've got another bunch to go, so that'll bring
Yeah.
that up.
So I think 1,500 is safe.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, we'll be up there. We'll be-
Okay.
Yep. Let's just ship that last one.
Now, sales of equipment, that's on this financials. It's not on, there's no number here. That was the garbage truck being sold. I don't know if we've got any equipment that we might be selling next year, so I left that blank.
if we're getting a new 1 ton, are we selling?
That would be highway though.
We already
That's in
auctioned
the highway,
Yeah.
yep, you're right.
We
Sorry.
auctioned the one off.
Yep, you're right,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I'd rather leave it 0, and if we have anything, that would be extra.
Okay.
State aid, the AIM-related payment, that is always the same. We've always gotten 21,996 from as far back as I can remember, even back to like 2017. So
Yep.
we can keep that the same. State aid mortgage tax, so far we've brought in 6,411. We're due to get a payment. I'm not sure it'll bring us up to 20,000. That number is dependent on how many people are getting a mortgage and the tax that they pay. In the 1 year, the year before this year, the reason this number is low is the January payment came in December and was counted in 2023. So that shorted us about 12,000 on there. So it depends on when it comes,
Yeah.
but I thought 20,000 would be safe. It's usually like 12 and 8, that's
Pretty close.
pretty close. So I think we can leave that there. State aid other, I don't know what that was, 3089, state aid other. I think 3089 was a code that used to be used and got incorporated to the 3001. Every time we get that money, they tell us what code to go through. It's not always the same code. And I think that 1539 in our financials is insignificant number. The youth program, 6,225 so far that came in. I did just submit for our reimbursement. We never know, I don't know yet, because the program ended September 30th and the new program starts now, and I don't know what the grants will be, but they will definitely be higher than the 8,000, but again, that's an in and an out, so it doesn't really matter. And then the appropriated fund balance is the 50,000 for the C&D closure that I'm required to put in every year.
What's our
So-
total on that? Remember?
What?
Our total, what we've got saved for that, you remember?
For what?
The C and D.
Oh, it'd be 160 something thousand, I think it's at the last page here. Let me see. Yeah, C&D closure, we have 160,726. We should have 150, but the interest earned would be 10,726.
Okay.
So we put the 50 in every year, cause I had to sign that financial agreement to do
Yeah,
that.
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the only thing we're changing here then would be if you wanted to lower the tax down to 30, just to be safe, and then we'll just lower it down on the expense side too. And if we get the extra 20, we do, and if not, it doesn't affect us. I don't wanna put it in like we're gonna spend 50 and then only get 30, although we do have plenty in reserve, so.
Okay.
So I'm gonna move, I'm gonna put that to 30, okay. All right. So now we're into general fund expenses. What I did for all the point ones here is I gave everyone a 2% increase, except for me. I didn't give myself a raise at all, so I only did it for everybody else. So that's what the numbers are reflected in all of the point ones. Town board contractual, I kept at 1,000. I don't know if anybody wanted to attend this class in New York City, but let me just look at what we've used so far. We've hardly used anything. We've used $212 out of 1,000. And Cynthia did talk about taking the class in New York, but she's not sure yet. So she has the paperwork and she'll just hold on till she knows whether or not to go. But $1,000 should do. We're all here, we've been here. We don't, I mean, I won't go to classes. I don't know if you guys want to, but
Depends on what comes up.
yeah. But we always have money in contingency if we need to move it, if we exceed it, but we have not. I mean, $212 is all we spent. Okay. The justice and the court clerk, they had the 2% increase. Their contractual is 2,000, and they have spent 1,564 this year.
Okay.
So we can leave that, okay? Mine, I didn't do anything, I'll just leave it the same. The secretary, she has a little bit more than 2%. I brought her up to $19.50 an hour because she was at $18.75, and she is doing a little bit more of the financials, so I put her to $19.50 an hour. And my contractual, I put 5,000 because I didn't spend that much this year. It was, I spent 4,643, but some of that was carryover from last year. But I did get this in the mail, and I gotta check with Mike Colvin. I might be able to reduce it. It's saying that there's the end of life for Windows 10. The secretary and I are the only ones in here without new computers, and we have Windows 10.
Yeah, I get that all the time too.
I'm gonna ask Mike about it though, because I don't wanna be stuck having to get new computers. I'm hoping not to, although everyone else in here has gotten a new computer. We have the oldest ones. But I don't mind, I'm gonna ask Mike, because if I don't need to get a new computer, if he says, oh, you could be upgraded, or whatever the deal is, or if this is nothing, this is from Nymer, so I don't know,
I get a lot of notifications from Microsoft on that.
about that. Do you have Windows 10 too? See, I prefer
Trying
10 to
force
11,
me to go
but
to Windows 11.
I'm just gonna right next to it ask Mike. I'll ask Mike and find out. If I don't need new computers, I'll bring it back down to 3.
Yeah, Microsoft is for more municipalities, I think.
Yeah.
I think so.
Mike-
That's why I'm having a hard time keep getting my email in there.
Mike will know,
Yeah, he's
and
gonna
if I don't need it, I
He's
will.
gonna have to help me because I've done something wrong. I haven't done that.
Director of Finance, I put in, I guess it's 2% increase there. Tax collector, 2%. Tax collector contractual, where am I at here? So far, she spent $2,498, but she does usually have end of year, and the postage has really gone up. I put 4,200. I could ask Jamie, because she didn't answer the budget request form. So I'm not sure if she'll need that much or not.
I mean, she's only spent 2,500 so far this year.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
She does go to a class though, and that's about 600, so that'll bring her up to the 3,000. And then I think she's already purchased the stamps she needs for January's billing before they went up the last time. I think she got our stamps. So,
Go ahead.
yeah, what do you,
I was just gonna say, we can leave her at the 3,000 if it doesn't sound like she's gonna need it.
okay,
I mean, unless she makes a case for more.
right, I can ask her. I'll just ask Jamie, but if she's got her stamps for January and she doesn't do the school tax, and I know she just got the envelopes too, I think, so she may not need it for 2025. Okay. The assessor chairman, that's Tuck, and that's 2%, and so is Sue is 2%. And then their contractual is 2,000. Now, last year, what drove him up? Oh, you know what I did, last year when I did the budget, I did not factor in the Board of Assessment review. That is what drove him up into a negative, remember when we had to move money over?
He's at almost 2,500 so far this year.
Yeah, yeah, but I think he had something that was a one-time expense, I forget what it was. But,
Well, why don't we make it 2,500 unless you, and if you figure out if there's a one-time expense, we can drop it back.
yeah, okay, and I'll just put Board of Assessment review, I have to factor that in, and I didn't last year.
Okay.
Okay, town clerk, all the point ones are the 2%. And for the deputy clerk, she doesn't really use a lot, but this year, let me see, she used only $644, but you never know how much she's gonna use, so I'd like to leave her at the 2,000. You never know. And then the contractual was 1,813, so 2,000 is good there.
Okay.
If Cynthia would ever buy a chair, it's been 3 years, Cynthia, buy a chair.
A miss cheap.
I know, buy a chair already. Now the attorney, we've so far spent 1,556. I increased it because I was expecting to have bond expenses. I don't know, because if we go with the lease, that requires an attorney review, but not necessarily as costly as the bond would be. So I don't know how that's gonna go. So I can just put a question mark in the notes section here, because I could possibly drop that if it's just a review of their agreement, as opposed to drafting up an entire bond. I mean, I'll leave the 10 for now and with a question mark, and as we go along and I know more about how we're gonna proceed. The engineer, we've spent 82,000, well, really, I know the number because we had some in abstract 10.
Yeah, I think we said 75,000.
Yeah, I think that would be a good number, we can lower that down. Elections contractual, well, that's 1,750, we know what that is. Now, buildings, personnel, we've used 926, that's Luann cleaning the building. But it was mentioned at the last meetings that with your salary should be separated into what you do here and what you do at the landfill.
Yeah, it never has been since 2007.
But we should be doing it that way.
So what are the things that we're gonna cover that you're doing down here?
Well, I can name a bunch.
Trash.
Picking up the trash here, picking up the trash after events here, picking up the trash up at the summer concerts and all the youth program parties, and killing the bees 3 times up there. He's fixed that sink, he fixed the bathroom
So
sink.
basically maintenance stuff.
Yeah, he's doing maintenance stuff here.
That was incorporated into the job description ever since Carl Baker. You work at the landfill, you pick the trash up, and you finish your hour doing whatever needed to be done.
Yep,
Picking
coming back to get the
trash, and that's where
cardboard.
it's been,
Okay.
Cleaning, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Hanging pictures.
it's always been in the other
taking
number.
photographs.
It should be, there should be something here, so I'm gonna have to calculate that out and find
Yeah,
out
okay.
how much each should be.
That's fine, okay.
Buildings contractual, we've spent 25,829 so far. So our budget was 56. Maybe we don't need to be 60. If we've only spent 25,
And this, okay, so what we've spent so far, 25,
up to September 30th.
okay.
So we have 3 more months.
Now, building contractual also includes all the fuel, the
Right.
maintenance, everything.
The phone bill, the slick, Microsoft 365, the repairs, like when the guy just came and
Water tank.
did the hot water tank.
The paint was on last year's.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, but we just had to get a new hot water heater
right.
and ran the PEX lines to the bathrooms and then to the sink. And But that'll be this year, that's not next.
So are we looking at any big maintenance expenses next year?
No,
And if that's the case and we've already only spent 25,829,
do you wanna go to 40? Well, let's see, what's 25,829 divided by 9 times 12 would be 34,438. We could go to 35,000.
yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Okay, unallocated insurance, we spent 33,744. And that is a final bill, there will be no more bills, that's our total. But they're expecting an increase, so I raised it to 40 to cover our liability insurance. Municipal dues, we have more to pay, 1,600 is what they come to with all of them, so that number's kind of set. Contingency, we've used 9,300 of the 20.
Wait a minute, I'm on the wrong line here someplace.
1990.4.
So we've got 20 in the budget, but what have we used so far this year?
So far, we have used 9,300.
I'm in the wrong place here somewhere.
No, you're not, because it doesn't show you expend it, because you don't expend it, you move it to the expense code and use it there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so look at the modified budget, that'll tell you what's left.
Okay. All right.
I mean, we could go, we used to put 10,000 in there before.
What do you think? We
I
should
would
do?
like to have the 20 in there. But we also have fund balance, we also have money in New York class. So we don't really need it here because we are covered with what we have saved.
Okay, so let's make it 10.
We could make it 10,
Let's go back to 10, because we have
Yeah.
fund balance if we need it.
we do,
Okay. Because everything that we cut here,
Lowers
it
the rate.
reduces the total amount of dollars we're raising in taxes.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
all right, so code enforcer, again, 2% increase, or maybe a little bit more, I don't know. What I have him at, 36, and now he's 39, so. And then his contractual, he has used up $454, I think it's a little bit higher, but when I was thinking about this earlier, because he came in here and he asked me about this, okay, but this was his first real year. So he did have to get, he got a metal clipboard, he got a magnetic sign for his truck, he got the forms he needs to fill out from Staples. We had printed up, and he's got plenty of them, he's got 500 of them, it'll last him years probably. So we really don't need this, we could probably lower that down to probably 250, if anything that he might need.
Okay.
Now, dog control, that's 2% increase on his salary. Equipment, I'd like to keep at 100. Sometimes, and even when I've watched dogs here, sometimes you might need a collar, a leash, dog food, so I put 100 in there. But the contractual part, if we're gonna contract, we're not gonna contract probably with Chestertown because, I don't work up there. It's not easy for me to go there and take care of the animals. So we'll stay with Countryside. They were $1,270. I'm expecting it to go up. Maybe it's 1,500. That's why I put that there. But when they just picked up that one last dog, and it spent 9 days in there being boarded, and we also pay for the flea treatment and the spay and neutering. It was $571 for one dog.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's one dog. So that would bring us over 2,000. What if there's more? I mean,
It's possible.
that was where contingency could come into play, or if we have to from fund balance. The problem we have is if it's not a dog that's owned by somebody here who's going to reimburse us to get it back, we are out that money, we have to pay it. So I had written myself a note to increase it to 2,000.
Can I talk?
Hmm?
Can I talk?
Yeah, sure.
What happened to the dog?
It's now available for adoption at the Countryside Bark and Rec.
And the taxpayer's responsible for neutering it?
Yes, part of the contract.
Where are those contracts found so I can read it?
I can get you a copy of the contract.
I mean, I'm a taxpayer, you have a dog, I don't believe we should be neutering someone else's dog. I mean, after a few days, you can't take it to a humane society that's gonna adopt it out and not
It
make
is
the
a bit-
taxpayer pay for it?
They won't put it available for adoption unless it's spayed or neutered.
So where does it go? You put it to sleep?
They hold it now. Once it's been treated, spayed and neutered, had its assessment, it's available for adoption. And the contract reads they hold it for 9 days.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
After
so-
9 days, it goes for adoption, we can't put it up for adoption after day one, have it neutered and,
No,
so it's available for adoption after, in the second day. I mean, we're paying daily for it to be there.
right, we pay daily for 9 days. Yeah. That's why, I liked it better but we can't rely on that. I mean, it's not really the right thing to do, but sometimes we'll hold them and find our owner on our own. We did do that. Like, I've got one of the dogs. My daughter's got one of the dogs. I mean, we have taken them in where we didn't have to go through the shelter process, but
And if people find out about the way the town of Thurman, does this happen in every town?
anyone who contracts with them, yeah. Like,
Because
I think,
anybody that finds out about this contract, well, if I need a good place for my dog, I'll go drop it off in Thurman. I mean, that's.
you mean to get rid of it? We have had a lot of dogs dropped off this year.
Well, I watched the sheriff's report. The sheriff's picks up 1 week, either sheriff or state trooper. It's on the Warren County Sheriff's report and the state trooper's report. They're in Athol once a week picking a dog up.
Yeah,
Where do those dogs go? They go to Barker.
I don't know. They're not going on our dime. We've only had one dog go there so far. And we're lucky that there's people that have taken them in, besides me and my daughter. There are other people that have taken in the dogs that, they got picked up and found homes for. But our liability, if they're brought there, that's about what we're gonna pay. Now, I could ask about revising the contract, but they will not adopt a dog unless it's spayed and neutered, once it's picked up. We're on the hook for that.
Right.
I wanna go back to the code enforcement officer. Do we get monthly reports from him?
He came in today to tell me about one, but,
He's been working for us for a year.
hmm?
He's been working for us for a year.
Yeah,
I
you,
don't believe he took an oath of office.
yeah, he did.
He did?
Didn't Richard get his oath of office?
Well, I asked him to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got them in last week.
Hmm.
Yeah, but an oath of office has to be taken 30 days after they're hired. Says in town law handbook that position's vacant if they don't take the oath of office within 30 days.
Even if he's not elected?
Yeah.
Right.
Anyone that has to do anything with the public that,
I think that's a zoning code enforcer.
no, it's in the book.
It's all public officials. Brian's right about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that office by right ought to be empty, vacant, because he never took the oath of office 30 days after he got hired.
I told him from now on, make sure he comes every year.
It's an annual thing?
Wow, yes.
As far as the monthly reports, I missed the last meeting, but the one prior, we talked about having departments all do monthly reports. And I think you agreed you were gonna mention it to all the department heads about asking them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be nice to get those reports so we can see what's going on.
All right, I'm
If
ready.
you really wanna see monthly reports, look at Orkin's monthly reports, and it's amazing what those people turn in for
Yeah.
a daily basis of work of what they're doing.
Really? Where'd you find that, on their website?
Yeah, on their website. It's unbelievable, well, everybody does it. The dump superintendent, the highway superintendent, tells you where they were working, how many days they worked on the project.
Really? Wow. Okay, so what do you wanna do for dog control contractual? Do you wanna leave it at the contract rate, or you wanna put in another 500 just in case?
What did you think we needed to do?
2,000, I was gonna put 2,000.
Okay.
That covers one dog. Registered vital statistics, that's 2% increase. Laboratory contractual, let's see. So far, we spent 2642, and that's on the well testing. And I believe it's the drug testing for the highway garage as well. I don't know why is it down to 2,000. Pretty sure we had a one-time, let me check that, but I'm pretty sure we had a one-time expense on there.
Drug testing don't go in the highway department?
Yeah, the highway department does, but it also covers the well, but there was something else that happened that, I don't remember what it was. I'm gonna run that code just to see. Because we spent 2642. It was 1,000 more than, we had to increase the budget 1,000. So it was 642. Something must have happened. I don't remember what, but I'll look it up. Ambulance, we already talked about. Superintendent of highways. I put in for 60,320. I went and looked at what the other towns are doing. And he is the longest serving, lowest paid highway superintendent. If you wanna see what the other towns are paying, it's the first column. And this one is 2024, so if you wanna.
How
look
does
at
the size of our workforce compare to theirs though? I mean, obviously, Queensbury's paying $93,000,
Well,
but
you
they've
can't count-
obviously got.
Can't count the city, you have to look at like,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm getting at,
Right.
is you gotta compare apples to apples. Queensbury's got
Right.
a much larger workforce.
well, even Stony Creek, you can compare with Stony Creek, Johnsburg, Horicon, maybe. I
What's
don't know.
Johnsburg? It's not on here.
Johnsburg last year was 60,000, and this year, they should be, what, did they not fill it out?
Yeah, it's not in here.
Yeah, they didn't send in the report.
Bolton, Chester, and Hague are not in here.
Yeah,
And Warrensburg.
they didn't file when they were supposed to. But that's the salary, and that's this year, this is next year's projections. So, yeah, so Stony Creek is 62,529, and they're smaller than us. And he's the second longest serving, Neil in Stony Creek.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then for the $1,000 for the equipment, that is random. I mean, I don't think he used much of that at all. That's like for filing cabinets, file folders, you know, that kind of thing. He's only spent 185. We could probably lower that down to even 250 because he doesn't use much of that. That's
Okay.
like for his office supplies over there. If he buys a chair, which he already did, I don't think he needs a computer over there or anything like that.
Okay.
So we'll bring that one down. Garage contractual. Let's see, so far we've spent 12,000 there. And that covers the fuel for the highway garage and stuff like that. So we've used 12,000. I think I lowered it to 18. So if I divide that by 9 and times it by 12, I get, oh wait, I don't know that. 12,000. Yeah, see, it'd be, if I did it monthly, it would be 16,000. So having 18 is a little bit of a cushion even.
Okay.
And they have the new furnace now too, so that's running a lot more efficiently. Street lighting, so far we spent 625, I think 1,000 is okay there.
Okay.
Veteran services, 250's good there. Sometimes we pay for flags, but we haven't really spent much of that in years. Program for the aging, I have not received anything about the bus. That's what the 2,000 was for in the budget. And the other 1,500 was, if you remember, I was going to get the tables and the chairs for the senior night, you know, so I may still do that by the end of the year, just to have them here if they wanna do senior night. And then I lowered this down to 1,500. Which should cover the bus. If it doesn't, we could pull it from somewhere else, but I haven't gotten anything telling me they're gonna continue the bus. Youth director, her salary went to 6,200, 2% increase, and then the youth contractual, I have 5,000. So it's a little higher than the 8,000, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, this year we did get, we got 2,200 for the shed, we got 4,800 for the archery, and we got, I think, 3,400 for the other program. Yeah, we got about 11,000 coming to us. And I did talk to Victoria and said, you know, if your revenue goes up, your expenditures can go up too. This is just a budget item. If she's also been, like, got t-shirts she's selling, she sells things up there, she's earning her own money in addition to what the budget would be, so. The historian, 2% increase, and I kept her contractual the same.
Question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That one we paid the historian like $1,800 this year?
Because she didn't get paid for the prior 2 years.
Yeah, I was just looking at 650 and I believe we already got
No,
1,800.
I remember when we did that.
Yeah, she didn't bring her social security number in, and without that, we couldn't pay her, so. But she did raise quite a bit of money. Her contractual, she raised a couple $1,000 on the revenue side with her cookbook. And so she does have available funds to do what other things she likes to do. Like, for instance, framing that flag, framing that map.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing Ed did. He made that frame, like, around the bottom there and hung that. And now she's got a bigger one. It is like
Yeah, she wants it out there.
over there. It's 56 inches by 72 high.
Nice.
And it's a really old map, and she's having that professionally framed.
Yeah,
So that's framed like to where, you know, it's protected as well. It's not just a
yeah.
basic frame.
Good.
Hmm.
That's pretty wobbly. That frame there, she-
So for 1,500 in her contractual, now what she did wanna do, I told her I didn't, unless she raised the money, it wasn't gonna happen, because she wanted to put 10,000 in her contractual to do a brass listing of the World War II vets in a granite rock out here.
Yeah.
So if that would be a fundraiser, that would be okay, but the taxpayers shouldn't be paying for that. Okay, now when it comes to the refuge and garbage
Yeah.
for your salary, Ed, see, I had anticipated running the garbage truck and you having more hours and Charlie's position being vacant. But now, if we're not gonna do that,
I was kinda hoping we could keep him for one more year.
keep Charlie for
Until we
one,
decide
okay.
how we're gonna set the whole thing up there. You know.
Okay, wait a minute, you lost me. What are we talking about doing here now?
Well-
Instead of eliminating this position, Charlie, I'd like to keep it going for one more year, until we decide how we're gonna set our transfer station up. Cause if we're not gonna go with the truck, we're gonna have to keep doing things the way we are. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't determined whether we're gonna keep the truck or go with a trash compactor, so.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
still getting the information on that, so far it don't look very financial wise to do that, but till I get the final numbers, then we will discuss it, but I'd like to keep him on the budget for at least 1 year.
So where we
If I
have,
could get the board to agree with me on that.
so where we have 38,000
it would be, a 2% increase would be 27,000,
Even?
yeah, well, close enough. 26461
And then
times
you're gonna leave the
2. Oh, but it can't be, that
It
can't be a
can't be.
2% increase.
They can't,
It can't be, no.
it's a union.
It has to
employee.
be the union rate.
No, I don't get involved.
I know
All
you
I'm
don't.
asking the board is to let me
Yeah.
keep my man 1 year, one more year.
I don't have any problem, Charlie, I'm just, 2%, you can't use it, you're a union member. You
No, I
can't
know.
use
Yeah, I know.
It,
Yep.
it popped into my head
That's all I'm
afterward.
asking until we
Yep.
decide, because once we get our new building set up, or wherever we go, it could be set up similar to Warrenburg. One man can sit there and they can run the scale and do what they have to do. It could
Okay.
be a lot safer, because then we wouldn't be out wandering around and stuff like that.
So
It's a safety thing too.
for the PS2, we're gonna leave the 21,548 in there.
Well, not if
Or
he's,
you're gonna
no,
have to
it would
do-
have to be 24,300. 24,300 based on the union rate. And for the .1 would be 26,724 for the 22 hours that Ed would be there. But then I would be adding to the 1620.4 for the hours that he's here. So that would be increasing over on that side.
Does that mean our union contracts get, our union employees are getting 10% increase in pay?
They're getting an hourly increase.
Yeah, but it amounts to.
That's not public information yet, though.
No,
We haven't passed
we
the
haven't passed
contract.
it yet.
Sorry.
She just gave the numbers.
Well, no.
Don't
she
do the
didn't.
math, don't do the
D-
math.
no.
I'm doing that
It's,
because I'm afraid of what the union contract's gonna say.
Mm,
Who represents us on the board at the union contract?
yeah,
Me and
You
Kevin,
employ 2 union employees, correct?
yes.
And how can you represent?
Well, I employ all of the union.
Well, she does the negotiation, but then ultimately the board
You
has
guys-
to approve it.
You approve it, okay?
Yeah,
And I stay out of it.
yeah.
I do.
Like when I sent it out, I only sent it to Doug and Randy. They didn't even see it, so.
And that's gonna be approved here soon? I mean,
Well, I couldn't approve, I wanted to approve it today, but Doug's not here and I need Randy
Yeah.
and Doug to approve it.
okay, because
So that's still on hold.
that makes a big difference in our budget number, correct?
Oh, yeah, yes it does.
Well, we've got an approximation budgeted in here,
Yeah.
but that's just an estimate. We won't know the actual number till the contract's approved.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so garbage equipment, oh. The refuge garbage equipment code is blank because the garbage truck is paid off.
Paid off.
So we don't have any number there.
That's a good thing,
Yeah,
a very good thing.
yep.
Okay.
And then 8160.4 is the contractual. We've spent 17,712 so far.
We should be on target for calls.
I put 22,000. If I do it monthly and do the math, it's 23.6, but I think 22, because that's including all that hauling. I don't know how it's gonna work out with the county.
I got my doubts.
Yeah.
I do, I really do. I hate to say that, but I'm concerned about it. That's why I was concerned about them rates, 'cause the last time it was kind of.
Yeah, I have them all from the county from my meeting. I
Exactly.
can give them
How
to you.
can you get them from?
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
Okay, cemeteries, so far we've spent 8,500, this is only to the end of September, so the month of October's not in there. He's also in the union, so his rate in here is 13,260. And his contractual,
He's already expended 2316.
yeah, that's including fuel and including other things. Now, one of the changes in the union contract, it wasn't designed for part-time and it wasn't designed for seasonal part-time, so there had to be changes there. So where a union employee would be entitled to a clothing allowance of $1 amount, it had nothing in there to prorate that for the months worked. So once you divide that in half for the 6 months and, you know, I put only 1,000 in here. Sure.
When did we decide he was gonna be hired as a union member, not a?
Well, anybody that works here can be a union member,
Yeah, but
except unless you're elected or appointed.
you're giving him a 25% increase on what he made this year. And he's a union member.
Based on what the union salary would be.
Does he work 6 months or year round?
He works 6 months. I'd like him to work year round, but he,
He does a good job. The only problem I got with it is he does a good job weed whacking the ends of all the roads. He weed whacks all the way up this road.
yeah,
Doesn't that come out of brush and weeds out of the highway department's contract?
I don't know, I guess it could.
Well, he's cutting all along the road. That's where the
Yeah.
highway guys cut.
Right, they normally would, yeah.
Well, yeah, but when you say all along the road, you're talking about in front of the town property?
No, I'm talking the whole length of the road. He's weed whacking.
Down by the post office.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay. I didn't know he was doing that.
But he does
We
in front of all
we
the
always
roads too.
have. We've always kept that clear,
Yeah,
always have.
But he's a cemetery
Intersections
employee,
too.
not.
well, it says cemeteries, but really he should be called groundskeeper because he does our rec field all the
That's what
time for the summer concerts and the youth archery and everything. And he does our lawn here, he does the field over there.
He should be a groundskeeper.
Yeah, he should. He does some of the landfill.
I think Brian's point though is once he goes off of town property and he's doing stuff along the highways, then his pay should come out of the highway budget.
Well, we hired him to mow just cemeteries. He told us when we hired him, he wasn't gonna do any maintenance. All he was gonna do was mow. And
He
wasn't
did.
a union employee then. Now he's a union employee.
Well, if he wants to pay the union dues, he can be a union employee.
Right.
We don't make him a union employee, he determines that for himself. He's eligible for it.
Okay. Well,
But you're right about the brush and weed section because that,
those guys don't go, I mean, they're out on mowers once in a while, but this guy will eat up a mower with a weed whacker. I mean, he's doing
yeah,
what the highway department
used
should
to
be
do.
doing with a tractor and mower. I mean,
Hmm.
this guy goes
Well, they
from
take
one
the,
end of the town to the other with that weed whacker.
they do the mowing as far as with the 4-foot long blade going down all the roads and everything. But Scott goes above and beyond with what he,
Yes, he does.
you know, he
But
He likes it to look nice. He doesn't want it, like, it bothers him if there's even leaves there. He's
who
very good.
determines when the tractor's out, because our tractor mows Glen Athol Road, and a week later, the county's back mowing it again.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, our town highway is contracted to do so
Yeah.
much every year.
They was snow removal.
Yeah,
But-
same with the sand, and I don't know where that'll go to this year, I'm not sure.
But I'm saying with the weed, we mowed it, and then they mowed it.
They
so-
do, yes, but we're
They're digging
obligated
right
to
now.
mow it at least once every year. I'm pretty sure that's Pat's contract, you'll have to look at it, but it's in the contract.
Yeah. Yeah, we do get money from the county for
Right,
that.
and
Yeah.
that, they did put that in the contract. Yeah. It's there, I've seen it,
Okay,
along with the cleaning of the sand, you know, the
Mhm.
ones, yeah.
yeah, right.
So we're gonna leave the contractual at 1,000?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And then, 89.1, that's Meals on Wheels. That's, I put a 2% increase in there. We've used 4,509 as of the end of September, so 5610 is a good number there. State retirement, that is due at the end of the year. And, I have those numbers here, I broke them out for what it would be for each. So part of it's general and part of it's highway. And it will be going up, so 22,100 is the exact number that it will be if we pay it this year. If we choose not to pay it this year and to pay $669 more, because if you look at highways retirement, there's a 71,700. So, we could do that if you choose.
Unless we're making more money in interest on it, I would say just pay it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Social Security, that was me adding all the .1s and timesing it by the Social Security rate that we have to pay, so that's close to an actual number. Workers' comp, I know exactly what that number is, that's an actual number. Unemployment, I put in 2,500, I'm not sure if we'll have anybody on it, we may. So just to be safe, I put that there. Disability insurance, 600 is enough there for us. I don't know if we've paid that yet, 90558. No, we haven't paid that yet, we'll pay that in December. And then the hospital, the medical insurance, that went up 18%. Yeah, yeah, that really went up.
All insurance is going.
So I put 31,000 there, and then I should really, I don't know what to do about if we're having a lease, or I don't know what the number's gonna be, but I put the 429 in there because that's the only known number that I have for 20 years. And then highway, we really can't do until the union contract's final.
Hold on a second, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm,
Back to the interfund transfer,
mm-hmm.
the 300,000. If we go to the lease that you're speaking of,
Yeah,
that's gonna go to 400,000,
429.
429. Okay,
Unless the rate goes down before we finalize it,
but when would the first payment be due?
that I don't know. Now, when it came to the trucks, it was the same company, it's the same company we bought those last 2 trucks from. So we got those trucks in June of last year, and our first payment is next February.
Is this the company that we didn't have good luck with because?
No,
No, this is a different one.
this was the company that financed the trucks.
Okay,
The one you're talking about is the one that was building them.
right. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, we're not gonna get the building built until sometime in 2025, or, yeah, 25. The first payment won't be until a year later.
Maybe.
So, I think, maybe this is a gamble, but we have fund balance and other things to cover it, we can zero that out.
I can ask. I can ask when the payment would be
I have a
due.
question too. I don't quite understand, I read a little bit up on it, but the inter-transfer fund, you have $300,000 in the 2025 budget. Isn't inter-transfer money, hardy money that we have in a fund account?
No, but I put it in the inter-fund transfer column. It's, but what it represents is the payment that we would have for the $4.5 million loan.
So
It's
we
not
have-
really, it would be an inter-fund transfer because it would be in the general fund and move to a capital project fund, or maybe be
Yeah.
paid, it depends on how we get the funding, where it
But
would
is this
be.
$300,000 in one of our general funds now? Because it looks like you're looking for 2025 to tax us on that 300,000. If the 300,000 is something that we already have in a fund, you're taxing us again on it?
No, that's a payment that
No.
may happen.
If I understand the way she's explaining this, she's just using that interfund transfers as a column that she's using to put a number in. It's not really an interfund transfer.
Well, that's what I'm
And-
asking.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's not really that.
Because there's a number for the inter-fund transfer.
We're actually talking about raising $300,000 in tax dollars to pay for the highway garage. And what I'm suggesting is that tax, or that payment for that bond or lease, whatever we do, won't be due until a year after we get the highway
2026.
garage done. So it's not gonna be due in 2025. So this 300,000 or 429,000, whatever we're talking about, I think we can zero that out of this budget.
That would be great if we could.
I think that's what we should do.
I will ask about that.
Worst case scenario,
Right.
Yeah,
If we do have to pay something, we either have fund balance or New York class money that we can utilize if we have to. And we would just have to do a budget modification
right.
during 2025.
yeah.
Or we could get a semi-annual payment and do a half and a half.
Well,
Just went down.
I think we need to investigate our
I need to know all the,
financing options more, because
yeah,
whether you make a single annual payment or whether you make monthly payments or quarterly payments, whatever, the more frequently you make payments, the less you're gonna pay per year.
right.
So we need to explore our options before, and I don't think we need to put a number in here for this budget.
Well, I will ask him, if this was to succeed and go through, when would the payment be due? And if he tells me wouldn't be due till 2026, we zero it out. That's when I'll do, because I don't have a confirmation that we're
The-
even gonna get it.
The other thing is, right now, all we're working off of is an estimate,
Right.
engineer's estimate. Once we get an actual bid, then we'll know.
Then we'll know.
We'll know what the bid is, we
Mhm.
won't know what the project costs are until we're done and we've gone through all the change orders and everything else that happens,
Oh, yeah.
and see how much, because here's the other thing, even if the town does some of the work, there's still gonna be expenses that we have to pay that aren't gonna be covered by the town. I mean, they're gonna do the equipment and the labor work, but we still have to buy, like we were talking to
Oh,
Gary,
yeah.
catch basins and all those other things.
Right,
So they have to be included in that. So right now, the number we're looking at is, we don't have a good number. It's too.
you can't, it's too early.
It's too early.
Yeah,
So
I
I
agree
think
with that.
for now, we zero that out.
Okay. Well, we really, for highway, we can only deal with the revenue, because we don't know the expenses yet till the union contract. So, ignore the property tax, because we don't know that for sure, that's just a plug to make it equal. Sales tax, 100,000. Transportation services, I haven't gotten any new revised contract, it's been the same thing for years, so I put the same number there. Interest and earnings, 20,000. Sale of scrap, 500. Sale of equipment, 5,000. Might be higher if he sells a 1 ton, I don't know, but that's a safe number. And then chips is 302,000, which is what he got this year. We haven't gotten any information that it would be going up. It's an in and out anyway, so it doesn't matter what that number is. And that's it for their revenue. And the expenses we have to wait on.
Well,
Back,
Go ahead.
back to sales of equipment, you're talking the $75,000 is up in equipment for buying a new 1-ton dump. Is the 1-ton dump we got, is that what you're gonna sell?
He hasn't said he was gonna sell it.
No.
All he said was he wanted to have a new one purchased because that one's getting old, so I don't know what his plan is.
The auction one off already. He wants to replace the one that was auctioned.
Oh, he's replacing the one he already
Yeah, he's
auctioned.
a
Okay,
replacement.
I see. He already sold it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Cause the other one isn't that old, right? It's only-
No.
So he's only got the one. He had
He's
two,
got
now
the
he has
one,
one.
and
Okay.
He wants to replace the one that was auctioned off.
All right, that makes sense. Thanks. I thought that he still had two, but he doesn't.
There we go.
Thanks, Ed.
And I think that,
go ahead.
I think that price that they give him on that, you might even get a better deal state bid too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he knows what he's doing.
Yep.
If he can
Oh,
get
yeah,
it cheaper,
knows. Yeah,
he
that's a
will.
good thing.
Under highway equipment and capital outlay, under equipment, the point 2, you've got not an AFR, what do you mean by that?
Oh, the code DA 5197.2,
Yeah,
we used to put a number there. That number is not, the AFR is what they call the AUD.
okay.
They did away with this code. It's not on the AUD anymore. So whenever we had it in our budget, I had to add that to the 5130.2 equipment code. That's why you'll see that equipment code, normally the 75,000 would have been there and the truck payment would have been in the 5197.2. They're combined now in 5130.2 because that's the only equipment code on the AUD.
So what does AFR stand for?
Annual financial report,
Okay,
and it used to be called an annual update document.
gotcha, okay.
They just changed the term and redid the entire way of filing, and it's much simpler now, and,
Okay.
yeah, so they gave it a new name.
So, I noticed medical insurance for the retirees dropped quite a bit. That went down 22,000.
Yeah, because we don't, there's some people that, aren't on the plan anymore.
Okay. So you're going to take these numbers that we did tonight, plug them back in
Yep,
for our next meeting?
yes,
Okay. We're good.
And the salary page is the same as on the tentative, so I can use that for my ad.
well, it may change, but you can use that.
It's a preliminary now, so I can.
Yeah, you can use it, but it may change, so, but that's okay, right? I mean, we can't set it in stone until the 20th.
Right, cause you could still change, you could still change it, but,
Yeah.
yeah, but I gotta get that ad in,
Yeah,
make sure we're all up to par with giving notice for a public hearing.
yeah,
Okay.
and that's the 7th, right? I have a
When,
calendar.
okay,
Yes.
so we're gonna need to have a meeting to do the union contract.
Yeah, so
The
Doug has to
sooner,
be
the
there.
sooner we do that, the more, that way we can plug in accurate numbers here.
Yes,
So, pin Doug down when he's available.
yeah, I have to pin Doug down.
And we'll get that done, and then how soon after that can you get us the new numbers for the preliminary? budget?
Immediate, I could do it in a day.
Okay,
All of this is in my computer in Excel.
okay.
So it won't take me long at all to do this.
Brian, you got any more questions?
Yeah. Do we get reports from our fire department?
No?
You just sit here and listen to EMS, you're giving them less than the fire department gets, but, and they'll give you a monthly update, but since I've been coming here, you've never had a report from the fire department
No.
at $92,000 a year. I mean, the last 6 years, you gave them $500,000.
Mhm.
It'd be nice, to me as a taxpayer, to know what they're using it at.
All right, I can ask them.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
We're their sole
I think-
source of revenue, though.
I think it's a
They
fair
don't get money
request.
anywhere else.
I don't think the report has to be extensive, it's just
Yeah.
some,
Number
the
of
basic
calls.
information.
I mean, I haven't noticed a new truck up there. I see them out every night, there's a meeting.
Yeah.
They're usually out doing, I mean, it's quite a bit of money. It's just a simple report. We spent
Mm-hmm,
$30,000 on air equipment or hoses.
right. Sort of like a budget, you
You
mean?
know, these guys are gonna give you a monthly report how many times they come in town,
Right.
which it always used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Emerson came to the meetings all the time.
I remember that, yeah.
I think monthly reports for EMS, for fire, for highway, for all of our departments, I think is a good thing because it gives the public something to chew on because that way they understand what we're spending money on.
Right.
And it justifies what they're doing, what we're doing. So, I mean, and I don't wanna make a lot of work for anybody. I don't wanna make it overly complicated, but.
No, but it could be just a basic thing, how many
Yeah.
calls, you know?
I mean, like highway, if we knew, I mean, you probably know because you talk to Pat all the time, but I
I
don't.
check it.
Like,
That's my dad,
what,
yeah.
what roads did we work on last,
Yeah.
last month?
Mhm.
And like, what did we get done? And what do we plan to do next month?
Right.
You know, it just, a couple, few sentences.
Yeah.
Show
It
up
doesn't
and
take
Just
a
an
lot.
update.
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
up
The
and
fire
tell us.
department could do quarterlies and
Absolutely.
give you an idea, so, I mean, if they say we're not gonna give you a monthly, well, give us a quarterly.
Yeah,
Something that says you might have spent $20,000 on something, so I know where my 92,000's going. And without a fire department, without a district fire department in town, no one could live here because anyone with a mortgage has to have fire insurance, has to have a district.
Right.
Mhm.
But-
Yep,
So,
yep.
I don't, everybody's a volunteer, but still be nice to know where some of our $92,000 goes.
sure, I'll
Yep.
reach out to them, that's no problem.
It's a fair request.
Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
You good?
I think
I'm
so.
Doug's
I'll
not
make the
here.
motion.
Doug's not here, we can't
I'll
leave.
make the
You guys
motion.
are gonna have to sit
You're
here.
gonna have to,
sit
you're gonna have to fill in, Brian.
No, I ain't filling it.
Yeah,
I'll make, I think Ed made the motion, I seconded it.
yeah. and
All in
I
favor,
agree
say
with
aye, we're
it.
adjourned.
And I agree. All right. Good night, guys. Good night.
I bet Doug forgot we even had a meeting.
Right. All right. Good night, Deb, I'll catch up with you.
Yeah, I'll get you that numbers from the county too,
Take care
because,
of my paperwork in the morning, to make
You
sure
might
I
have to
still
let the
got
post
some
on,
funds.
it's too long.
what?
I don't know if I'll be able to post it like, cause it's so long.
Good night, see ya.
There's
There
limits
is a
on how
limit.
long?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
I'll check it out.
that's a really good idea.